Hello everyone and welcome to episode 42 of the Nurtured by Nature podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined in conversation by Lilli, a singer and sound reiki master based in Salisbury in the UK. During this fascinating conversation, Lilli shares her love for the incredible power of singing, which she beautifully describes as the way our soul gets to speak. Her journey through her own challenges, including anxiety, grief and depression, led her to more deeply explore sound healing, which she has now combined with her background in music and song through her company Sing to Heal. We explore how sound frequency, singing and vocalisations are an important part of our body's ability to self-soothe and helps us to regulate our nervous system, allowing us to cope with life's challenges. Utilising singing in the space of community has some added benefits for allowing us to co-regulate and process what we need to let go of. This conversation is packed full of Lilli's beautiful, heartfelt wisdom about life. She shares how we could all benefit from letting go of our expectations about how we think life should be, whilst challenging the meaning we give to events and the stories we are choosing to tell ourselves. Remembering it is a choice to be empowered, to believe in yourself, and to develop awareness of where you are putting your energy and focus. Life is always going to give us challenges. We need to find the ways that allow us to thrive in spite of the challenges we face. Well, welcome Lilli, and thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of the Nurtured by Nature podcast. I'm really looking forward to having a fascinating conversation with you today, exploring more about what you do and how sound can be just, well, an important part of our lives, I think. But just to get us started, I like to ask all my guests just to share a little bit about their nature story, which is quite open and you can interpret it however you want, but just maybe how nature's been a part of your life or any experiences, happy memories, anything you'd like to share to get us going. That would be fantastic.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I am very excited and I love this question. The thing that's coming to mind is the ocean. I have this thing about the ocean and the sea. And I think it's from when I was a kid. We would drive on family holidays down to the seaside. And my dad would always say, who's going to be the first one to see the sea? And then I'd be looking and then I'm like, I can see the sea, I can see the sea. I will still do that now. And it doesn't matter if there are children in my car or not. I will be very excited to be the first one to see the sea. And there's something about it now, like as I've got older, something very calming about the ocean. And I think it's about the vastness of it. I get the same thing if I look at the sky. And if I'm having a day where, you know, one of those days where everything's feeling hard and you're just being hit by issue after issue, just going and looking at any vast expanse like the ocean or like the sky or like out of my window right now, I can just see a vast expanse of trees. And it's just a reminder that you're small. And that sounds like a negative thing, but it's not. It's like your little,
isn't it?
Perspective. It's like you are this tiny little dot, you know, dancing around on the planet and your problems feel huge, but they're truly not. You know, there's something that goes beyond that. And I just, so that's the first thing that springs to mind.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, the ocean is wonderful for that, isn't it? You can just sit there and I don't know, there's this sort of, you know, the waves sort of gently, that sort of melodic sound as well. And you just feel like they're sort of washing things away, don't they? And it
makes everything better.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it's sort of, because it's constant as well, isn't it? It doesn't matter how you're feeling, you go there and it's like the ocean's there. And
that's true. I love that. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's exactly what it is. If everything else feels like it's changing, the ocean's always going to be there. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I sort of mentioning the sound of the ocean kind of brings us nicely on to what you do for a living. And I'm really, really interested to hear more about sound healing, because I think it's something that perhaps most people don't really think of sound in that way, do they? And they should, really.
It's subliminal, which is kind of cool because it means it's accessible and everyone's benefiting from it, even if they've never heard the term sound healing. Because, you know, there are obviously there's music, but there are vibrations, there is sound all around us in the world, in the atmosphere. And, you know, even from before we're born, the first thing we will sense is the sound. We will hear those sounds and feel those vibrations even when we're still in the womb. So yeah, and I think, you know, sound healing itself is quite a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And as we were saying just before we went live, I think I've been called, and I don't think it's just me, by the way, I don't think I'm like Jesus or anything, but I think like I've been called in my life to bring it more mainstream. And so I like to use singing, because singing is such a source of joy for so many people. And singing's been something I've always done, but having trained in sound healing and understood how the energy system works and how the sound vibrations work, and bringing those two worlds together has just taken my work to a much deeper depths, and just made it even more meaningful than it was before.
Yeah, I love that. I think I don't know. I mean, we're both in the UK, and I feel like singing isn't as much a part of our culture as it is in other parts of the world. Like I spent quite a lot of time in Africa, and like when you're in the sort of more like local rural communities, like there just singing was part of life, you know, like women would be together, like wherever they were, they'd sing, the children would sing. It was, you know, it was just this, I don't know, more natural, where I feel like in our society it's sort of become a bit pigeonholed, hasn't it? It's like there's certain places that you go, or certain things that you might do where singing might be part of it. But generally for most people, they don't just burst into song, do they? Unless you're perhaps a child. And then I think it's very like children do it, don't they? Like it's almost like a natural part of how they sort of show up in the world and process things, until someone tells them that they sound awful, and then they get shy, like, which is what happens with most things in life, isn't it?
This is the weird thing, because I was told I was awful and I just completely ignored it, you know. And I'm just laughing at anyone that listens to this that knows me, because you've just said, you know, oh, people don't burst into song, because I do all the time, in the street, on the beach, like in coffee shops, anywhere. And I think that's just proof that I've never grown up and never will. But you're right. And I think in this country, singing is associated with singing in assembly at school, which, you know, just makes everyone want to die.
Awful, you know, memories.
Awful memories of being made to sit on a hard floor and just sing songs, you know. And then, or religion, right? And so for some people that's amazing, because religion is a huge part of their life, and they love that. But if you don't class yourself as religious, I think some people, like even now, singing is seen as something that's a bit odd. And since, you know, the shows like X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, they've kind of helped and hindered all at the same time, because it's brought it more mainstream. It's allowed more people to feel like they can do it, but also it brought with it a ton of ridicule, you know. And so I have always sung my whole life. And I remember at school when they sat me down and were like, you know, I was about to go off to, I don't know what stage it was at. I think probably I was about to go to college. And they were saying, you know, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a singer. And literally, this is what they said: we can't all be Kylie Minogue. So what else are you going to do? I was like, oh, well, business, I suppose. I don't know.
I think I had a similar experience. Not I didn't want to be a singer, but I feel like we were quite stunted in school, and it was.
They have a checklist, don't they? They're like, no. You can be a doctor or a lawyer, or you can be a housewife, or you can go and work in a shop. Like singing's not on the list, so sorry, pick something else.
Oh, but I love that you just didn't let anyone hold you back as well, because I think that, I mean, that's kind of like a superpower, isn't it, really? Because it is hard to like kind of
barefaced like defiance, I think.
but it is. I mean, I think it's really great that you kind of followed that dream, and you've, I mean, well, you it's been part of your career, hasn't it? You have been a singer. You've been involved in singing, so it's you ignored the careers advisor.
Completely ignored. Well, I had no choice, because I really wasn't very good at anything else. But also, I think for me, especially early on, I had put singing with fame. So it was like, I want to be a singer, so I'm going to have to be famous to do it. And
Yeah.
so there was a small chunk of my life where I was like, okay, I want to be a pop star, you know, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of
Yeah.
people go through that, whether they think they want to be a singer or not. And I can remember going for singing lessons, and I walked into my singing lesson and the guy was like, why are you here? And I said, because I want to be a singer. And he went, do you want to be a singer or do you just want to be famous? I was like, no, I want to be a singer. Like, I actually, if I could do that and not be famous, that would be great. It's
Yeah.
just that seems to be the only way to do it. And then actually, the more I went down the route of trying to, because that's a lot of judgment and that's a lot of box ticking and doing it the right way. And the further down that route I went, the more unhappy I became.
Okay.
And having come full circle, what I now know is, and what I realized a long time ago was, singing has always been my own form of therapy. So
Yeah.
singing was, you know, so it wasn't even that somebody said, oh, you can't be Kylie Minogue, and I decided to defy them. I just couldn't not do it. I couldn't
Yeah.
not sing. And I think the thing that you're supposed to do in your life is that thing. It's the thing that you can't not do. And it doesn't matter how much time or money or whatever you've got in the world, it's what can you not go a day without doing? And I could not go a day without singing. I did go 2 weeks without singing once when I did an audition and I didn't get in. And it literally was like a dagger to my heart. And I was like, singing stupid and I'm not doing it anymore. And then I was miserable.
Yeah.
And it just came back. And any time in my life where I've tried to not do it, which sounds silly, but you know, there's a whole story behind that. But any time I've thought I'm not supposed to do this, it's been when I've been the most miserable. And so without anything else, singing is just how I self-regulate. I just didn't know that's what I was doing.
Yeah, and I think, well, it's really interesting that you say that, because I've had quite a few guests and that we've talked about like trauma and the nervous system and things, and one of the things is self-regulation, and actually singing and sounding, things like humming and things like that are fantastic for that self-regulation, aren't they? For balancing the nervous system, and which is why sound is so fantastic, a healer. But it's yeah, so it's fantastic to hear that you've had that experience yourself, and actually you kind of turn to song and singing to help yourself and keep, because you've struggled, haven't you, with a few sort of with anxiety, I think, particularly, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah. Oddly though, it was later on. So, you know, and this kind of all went with the confidence thing. I've always been a very confident child, I think. But having said that, I was massively bullied, and I think there was a whole part of me that had no self-esteem. But in myself, I always felt like I was confident, and I've always felt very happy, very much glass half full kind of person, you know, turn the smile upside down, all of that, or the frown upside down. Sorry, not the smile. And then when I had my kids, my first two children, I was diagnosed with anxiety, and I just think it was a hormone thing. I don't really know. That was it, and it coincided actually with a personal trauma, and also voice loss. And I'm saying and also because I have no doubt that all of it was linked.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was a new mum who, by the way, was completely adamant that being a mum would not change a thing. So, I mean, that was a hard lesson to learn. Bless my soul. So yeah, you know, new mum. One of my best friends was diagnosed with cancer that turned out was going to be terminal, and I lost my voice, and with my voice I lost my entire identity. And that was the time when I started to really lose my confidence, and it was because of what I was telling myself. It wasn't even what anyone else was telling me. So it was interesting. It's so interesting actually, that whole thing, because that was one of the times when I thought I'm not supposed to sing. It was funny because when I lost my voice, I was quite pragmatic about it and was like, oh, all right, I've lost my voice. I guess God doesn't want me to sing then. I'll do something else. Like, I must have a purpose. What is it? And that's when I realized I'm really good at boosting people's confidence. So I went all in on the confidence stuff, which is what led me actually eventually to the holistic stuff and the nervous system stuff, the mindset stuff, the spiritual stuff, the energy stuff. Like, so without that, would I have ever recognized that? I don't know. It's just, I just find our journeys so interesting. And I've really learned that there really is never a block. It's just it's a segue into something you're supposed to experience for a greater purpose. And I think the issue we have is, and the issue I had at the time was I made that mean something about myself, and I took responsibility for it and thought that that means XYZ about me. And what I've learned is, these challenges are going to come, but it doesn't mean anything about you. It's just like, buckle up and ride your way through it, know who you are, have faith in something, and then you'll come through, whatever that looks like. But the self-regulation thing is interesting, isn't it? Because if you think about it, when a child is unhappy, they'll cry. But if they're not crying, they'll do what we call whinging. And obviously we've been told whinging is a bad thing, but they'll sort of do this thing. And I did that when I was having panic attacks. I would do it in the middle of the night, much to my husband's delight. I'd be like, like I'm not okay. And it felt like it was awful at the time, but that was a self-regulation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like your body kind of knew best sort of moment.
Yeah, it's like, you need to make this sound. I did the same thing when I was having my children. Did it make childbirth not painful? Absolutely not. But did it give me a point of focus? Yeah. And did I come through it? Yes, I did. Here I am. That's the point.
I think I was just listening to you there, and it was just I got goosebumps at one point, because I think you said that it was basically that it's not that you won't have challenges, it's like learning how to come through them. And I think this is such an important point, isn't it? That like a lot of people, I don't know what we attach to it, whether we feel like failures perhaps, or it's the stories, like you said, it's the meaning that we give to it, isn't it? That makes these sort of roadblocks into like these mountains that actually we just sit down and go, we can't conquer this, and game over. And I think like part of the work you do is basically sort of helping people realize that actually we're all going to have challenges. Life isn't going to be challenge free, and actually the skills we need are sort of the tools to help us be able to stay, I don't know what's the word, centered, and sort of be able to, I guess, not get stuck in the challenge, really, isn't it? It's to have that ability to sort of feel everything that's going on, but just take a little half step back and go, hang on a minute, and keep going.
Yeah, and that's what will keep you going. So at my lowest point so far, because I'm under no illusions, and I was under some illusions for a while, because guess what? When you wander into spirituality and all this energy stuff, it feels like you've hit the lottery of like, oh my God, I've figured all of life out. And you become a bit arrogant, and you become really entitled, like, oh, I've ascended above the human experience. And I even remember, and I hate that I'm saying this, but I'll just be real, I even got to a point where I was like, do I even have to do this human thing? And it wasn't like, I wasn't sad in my life at all. I wasn't in a bad space, but I was just so like, well, if I'm this golden ball of awesomeness in the ether, like, why have I got to do this? Like, because this human thing sucks, So I feel like I'm not there anymore, because when I thought I'd figured it out, I realized I really hadn't. And the thing that was the big shift for me was when that anxiety, because essentially I thought I'd nailed anxiety. I thought I'd read a few books and I learned about mindset and a bit of tapping and some breathing. And I was like, well, all right, then I don't have anxiety anymore. Hurrah. Until anxiety came back. And actually it was anxiety mixed in with a whole ton of grief, which oddly I didn't even acknowledge at the time. And this is the arrogance, right? It's like, how dare the anxiety come back? I had not factored in the fact that my friend at that point had died, and not that long ago. And we were in a pandemic. So there was global grief. And even if you as an individual were coping with that, the collective heaviness in the world would have had some impact on you, that undoubtedly. Yeah. But I didn't take any of that into account. I just felt sad and was like, oh, it's back. Like, and
Yeah.
I plummeted all the way down to the bottom and immediately went to, you've figured nothing out. Nothing
Yeah.
you thought was real is real. Nothing you thought you could do is anything you can do. You're really not an ascended anything. You're not inspiring. You're not motivational. You can't run this business that you thought you could run. Everything you thought you could do is a lie. And I actually just got to the point where it was like, you're just mentally ill. You're just mentally ill, and you'll always be that. And that's all you're ever going to be. So sit down, shut up, and this is your life. Like, congratulations. And that was the darkest moment
Yeah.
because I was disconnected from the truth of who I am. And the truth of who I am is the truth of who you are. We are these golden balls of light that have been
Yeah.
shoved into these meat suits. Whatever your belief system is, right? You may or may not believe that. I just feel like that's a really fun way to look at it. I just
And I
think,
think,
yeah,
I just want to say, like, thank you so much for like, no, but it's your beautiful honesty, because I'm like, I mean, I sit here and I'm like, my goodness, like you listen to like the diatribe that you were giving yourself, and you're like, hang on a minute, let's get really honest here. You probably are speaking to yourself like that as well, because I know I do it as
oh
well.
God,
Like,
yeah,
and that's half our challenge, isn't it? Is this like, the awful things that we say to ourselves, and and we take ourselves down these like really, really dark pits. And yeah, sometimes it's we can't avoid challenges and things in life, but actually we don't help ourselves by just some of the judgment that we put on ourselves, which is really quite cruel. So I just want to say thank you to you for being honest, because a lot of people aren't honest, I think, which is what you've touched on with like the sort of the spiritual field. When you start to dip a toe into it, there are
mm,
people there that do present themselves as like, they're now the perfect incarnation of, human
mm,
existence, and they barely exist actually on the human plane, because they've enlightened themselves above it, and
yeah,
everything in their lives is perfect and nothing ever goes wrong. And actually, and they're sort of a false guru basically. and
yeah.
and yeah, you want to, there is amazing power in these healing modalities, energy work and things, but just have an open mind, and don't ever put anyone like on this pedestal of like guru
Mm.
and perfect, and just take that step back again, and just find people. And that's what I love about you. That's what really appealed to me, was like, this is, you're really, you understand the power of working with sound and how it can help people, but you're actually just really humble and real, and like I'm
It's
just
the
another
only
person
way.
figuring it out as I go along.
100%, 100%. And the key thing is empowerment. It's empowerment. And what was the other word? Entitlement. Oh my God, are we entitled? It's
Yeah.
when we go, oh, my life isn't what I thought it was going to be. Why did you think your life was going to be any kind of way? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, oh, Disney told me. Yeah, okay. So Disney, actually, I love Disney. I have a lot of
Yeah.
love for Disney, but also, we all grew up thinking that we were going to be rescued, and that,
Yeah.
we're just going to meet the perfect person and live the perfect life. And listen, if someone has actually found a way to evolve beyond this and still be a human, all power to them. Good for them. I've not figured that out, so I'm not going to tell you that I have.
Yeah.
It's really not the case. And for me, that sense of entitlement, and what I mean by entitlement was, I felt like I was entitled to have like a clear run.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you think that? Why do we get so upset? I mean, this is a hard thing to say as someone who lost a friend very young, but who
Yeah.
were we to ever feel like we get to be old?
Yeah.
Where's the promise? It's never been promised. And we live our lives entitled. We feel entitled to live 100 years. Nobody ever promised you that was coming. And I
Yeah.
just think instead, the friend that I lost really made the most out of her life. And she was making the most out of her life before she ever got ill. So it's not even like it was something she just did as a reaction. But even after she was poorly, she wrote an entire series of books. She continued to be
Wow.
such a source of inspiration. She
Oh,
was still
wow.
hilarious. And, you know, somebody said to me, oh, are you angry that she had to die young? And I'm like, I can't be. I can't be angry, because if I'm angry about it, then what I'm saying is that isn't right. but maybe
Yeah.
that was right for her soul. It's
Yeah.
the only way I can navigate life. And I think being real is the only way I said to you before, I'm too lazy to do it another way. I can't be bothered to keep up with some shiny, it would mean I'd have had to come to this podcast and put makeup on.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to, it's not necessary for the work that
Yeah.
I do. And I'm so passionate about living life to the absolute max.
Yeah.
And I don't think that means we're not going to be challenged. But I think when you understand, for me anyway, when I started to understand that I am guided, that I do have a purpose, and that there is something that expands beyond this human experience, then
Yeah.
I see myself beyond the challenge. It doesn't make the challenge any easier. And you're going to go through all the emotions, but truly the darkest time of my life was when I disconnected from that truth about myself.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm talking about the truth like I know it's the truth. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody
No.
knows. All these people that are banging their drums going, I've got the truth. You actually don't know.
No.
But we have the choice. We have the choice to believe what feels good. And at that point, my choice was believe that you're mentally unwell and a complete loser, or believe that you're being guided, that your soul has a purpose, and that you get to make it something amazing out of your life. That sounds so much better. So I've gone with that. Do I have proof? No. But do I have proof of the other thing either? Not really. I've got I could prove either one if I tried really hard. So I'm going to put all of my energy and focus into the thing that feels better. And that's literally where I'm at. That's as far as I got.
I love that. I mean, I do want to like honor you for being so open about grief as well, because I think grief is something that touches many of us. But actually, you also touched a little bit earlier on like this mass consciousness and the collective and how that impacted you during COVID. And I think that's part of my reason for my podcast was actually for the people that care about the environment, like they're quite often sort of quite empathetic people. They're quite sensitive because they love nature and they love, they connect to nature, and they are quite weird, they're massively impacted by this sort of collective consciousness of anxiety and grief, like all the things you've been talking about, like are emotions that they're dealing with both personally on like actually, fundamentally in their own lives, things that they're seeing in happening to the natural world around them that they're feeling powerless to change and help, but also this collective consciousness that they're sort of tapping into. And I think beyond people who care about whose specific focus is the environment at the moment, there's a huge, ever since COVID, really, we've kind of gone from COVID into quite a lot of wars and things like that, there is just a huge sort of amount of grief that is being held in that consciousness. And I think it's this conversation with you is just really beautiful. I mean, I actually lost my dad when I was quite young, so I was sort of 20 in my early 20s, and he was older than your friend, but he was only 60. So again, it was this, and it was very sudden. He wasn't actually even ill. It was just a very sudden death. And it is like, we do have this sort of like expectation that life's going to be a certain way. And I think that's part of the thing that like challenges us, isn't it? Is actually like we have this expectation. And it's like, actually, if you just kind of let go of that expectation, you do yourself a huge favor, like just immediately, isn't it? Because a lot of like our own personal grief in our life not turning out the way we expected is that we had this expectation instead of just being able to just actually enjoy the life we had, which I think is what you were saying about your friend, is that she just literally like kind of grabbed life and just enjoyed everything that she could out of it and took advantage of that. And I think for myself, my podcast is trying to find a way to like give people the tools to like deal with those emotions, that anxiety and grief, and and realize that there is another way, like you can move through that and be hopeful and actually help create this sort of nicer, brighter future for all of us and for yourself as well.
Yeah, it's that duality. You've just said it. You can actually have both. And I think we think it has to be either or. So when we are in a bad place And is it bad? I mean, it feels bad. I guess that's why we say bad. But
Yeah.
if you're in a dark place, if you're feeling anxious, if you are grieving, it feels all encompassing at the time. And you feel like this is it now. This is all I'm ever going to feel. This is all it's ever going to be. And that feels very real. The work I've done with energy, and again, I'm so skeptical of my own work. I feel like if there is a spirit team that are guiding me, they're probably banging their head on a wall going, really, this human? Because I will question everything.
Yeah.
But there's a concept that's taught with the energy work that I do, the sound reiki, where it's all about vibration, high vibration, low vibration. And I've heard people speak on this. And so, you know, the really simple way to say it is, oh, high vibration is feeling happy and joyful and blah, blah, blah. And low vibration is anxiety and depression. And so already speaking of them in those terms makes it feel like there's good and there's bad, there's high and there's low.
Yeah.
But actually there can be both, you know. I mean, I was desperately sad when I lost my friend, and yet in the same moment, listening to the music that reminded me of her brought me joy, and it brought me comfort. And those things can walk side by side. And the greatest lie we'll ever tell ourselves is that we are stuck in a moment, and that can go either way. If your life is amazing right now and you think it will always be amazing, that's potentially a lie, and you're going to fall a lot harder when a challenge comes. But similarly, if you're in a very dark place right now, you're telling yourself the lie that this is all it's ever going to be, it's not. There's always access to both. It's just that certain situations will dial up one or the other. But it really is it's this wavy up and down roller coaster situation. And it is that anchoring, that grounding of whether I'm high or low, you know, I know that I matter. I know I have a purpose. And I know that whatever I'm being asked to face, I have the tools to come through it, even if I don't know what the tools are or what that looks like. Just having that knowledge. And guess what? That's a choice. Because do I have proof? Nope. Does it feel good to have that faith though? Absolutely, yes. So that is my choice. It's a choice, and it's empowered. And it's that, you know, you mentioned earlier about the false gurus. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with a guru until you give your power away to it. Whatever the guru is for you, the minute you think that person has more power than me, or, you know, I even did it this morning. I was journaling this morning, and I could see the way I was journaling. I was kind of asking, like Oliver with the bowl, oh, please bestow blessings on me. It's like, hang on, the thing that you're praying to is you. That is who you are. That's my belief system. The God, source, whatever you're praying to, you're a fragment of that. So you are the creator, you're the co-creator. So yes, ask for support. Yes, lean on support when you need it. And stand on your own 2 feet and do your part, whatever that looks like, you know? And sometimes you'll feel like more able to do that than others, but never lose sight of the fact that you have a part to play and you have the ability to play it. That's been a game changer for me.
I think that's a really important point, and I love the way you explain that. And I think for people who are struggling as well, like in places of anxiety and grief as well, it can be very easy to sort of hand your power to someone else, particularly if they give you that, like, I feel better, and you know, and realize that actually they're facilitating you to feel better in yourself, rather than they're actually, you know, fixing you, kind of, in a sense. And it is really important to remember that they're a guide rather than they guide you, don't they? I mean, that's
100%.
what they should do, is to find your way to be, and you should be able to be independent of them, not reliant on them for the rest of your life, for them to help you. But there's a couple of things I want to pick out there. One, when you were talking about like good and bad and like high and low, and I was thinking actually this idea of like an orchestra came to my head, of like basically how all of the different instruments have their own different vibrations, and you know, and you need all of them to create a beautiful symphony of
Yeah.
music. And I think sometimes we forget that, don't we? And we're like, but if we, if you listen to an orchestra and it was like all of them were like playing the same like note and vibration, like in, and they didn't have that different
Yeah.
tonality, it just wouldn't have that richness, would it? And I think that's what we forget, is like we need that richness in life. It's like this huge diversity is where the power is, and it's just about being able to move through things, and like you said, not getting stuck in that moment, whatever moment that might be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just loving talking to you. It's just so much fun to speak with you on this. But I think vibration is something that you've mentioned, and it's frequency. And I think sometimes we forget that, like, there's certain things in our lives that have frequency that we just accept as frequency, and we can't see it, and that we accept it has an impact on us, like electricity, radio as well. Like, we accept that we can turn the radio on, and the frequency is there. It's, moving through the air. We can't see it, but it's having an impact, and we can hear it with the radio.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sort of the foundation of some of the sound healing that you do, isn't it? Is the tones and things, and actually how they impact like the body and the cells, and make us feel.
This is what I love about it. It's multi-layered. And so it really is for everyone. I run a choir on a Tuesday morning, and it's just a pop-up choir. You turn up, you sing for an hour and a half. It's a different song every week. And so on one level, it's just come and sing. If you enjoy singing, you're going to enjoy it. But because of the work that I do, I will channel the song each week, which means I will just sit for a minute and I'll tune in and go, what do I feel like we need to sing this week? And it's so odd, because I can very strongly feel pulled to one song or another. Like, it needs to be something slow this week, or it needs to be upbeat this week. And last week's a great example. I was drawn to do a song that was by Pink, actually. And the song itself is quite uplifting. But my God, the lyrics, oh my Lord, it had everyone in tears. And this was the thing, I said, because actually one lady that came last week is someone that's been in my other choir for years, but she's never been to this one. And it's very different, because the other choir I run is kind of more traditional choir. It's not a traditional choir at all, because it's mine, but it's more traditional in that we learn songs and we do harmonies and then we do shows. But the Coffee, Cake and Choir, which is the Tuesday morning I'm talking about, we are releasing what no longer serves us. We are saying what needs to be said. We are giving ourselves a voice, and we are choosing songs that get to say how we feel if we don't know how we feel, And we were singing this song last week, and like I said, it had everyone in tears. And I said to them, there would have been a time where I would have completely not coped with that, because I used to be known as the ice queen. I would not cry for anyone, for any reason, for anything. And if someone else tried to cry around me, I'd be like, oh no, like, And I think that's where my joyful comes from, because I was desperately always trying to make people feel better.
Yeah.
And I still want to make people feel better. But what I've learned now is you can feel better on the other side of that release. So crying feels bad sometimes, but it isn't. You're letting go of what you don't need anymore. And the beautiful thing was, there were some people last week that couldn't even sing the lyrics to start with, because it was making them cry, because it was bringing up whatever it was bringing up. But by the end of the session, they were singing the words loud, proud. They were joyful, and everybody left feeling like they'd had a hug. And I was like, that's what this is about. It's not about not crying. It's not about let's just be joyful all the time. The point is, you will get to joy when you move through the other emotions. And if where you are today is at the bottom of that emotional scale, if where you are right now is anxiety or depression, it's not that you can't access joy, but it's going to feel impossible. So just reach for the next best one, And so that's what they did. If they came in feeling grief, then they went through all the emotions in the song. And then eventually they were able to feel hopeful. Hope is one of the most powerful emotions, because it isn't a dead end anymore. It's like, even though I feel rubbish now, maybe I won't feel rubbish tomorrow or next week or next month. Hope is everything.
Yeah, it's I love that. I think hope and love just sit there as like just the two most, I think, kind of the most powerful things you can offer to other people and you can offer in the world is to
Mm.
just hold that space for people to move into and out of as they need to. But I love what you talk about because that's another aspect of what you do is the sense of community, and it sort of prays back to what I was saying about the people who used to sing together just like whenever they were doing things. And I think that's the other thing is like with vibration is like you resonate with people around you. So also being with people that can sort of give you that higher emotion, like your body can come up to that vibration level as well, can't it?
Oh, I mean, there are actually scientific tests now that have been done that prove if you're singing in a choir, for example, I think they said your heart beats synchronize.
Yeah.
And obviously the release of endorphins. I mean, this is what, it sounds like I'm being flippant. I'm not trying to be, but we talk a lot. There's a lot of talk now about singing is good because it makes you feel good and brings people together and blah, blah, blah. It goes so much deeper than that when you start to understand the energetics of it as well. And working with the chakra alignment in your body, for example, when you have knowledge of that, and this is kind of how I've come into it. I've always sung. I've always wanted to bring people together. It's just that's how I love to roll. So it really is just a very selfish reason why I would do that because I just want to do it for myself. But that's the whole freaking point, right? We're all fragments of the same thing.
Yeah.
And if everybody just allowed themselves to do more of the thing that lit them up, we shine like a beacon to other people that can't do that. And then it
Yeah.
brings those people in. One lady that comes to my choir was the actual antichrist of everything I was. She sits on what we call the wailing wall because now we've done this choir for over a year. There is always a wall of women that are just crying because the song has affected them. But that lady, and she's one of my dear friends now, has taught me that it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
That lady also taught me, I went to one of her healing circles and I was amazed because as someone who's always been a fixer, I'm someone that likes to do. And if something feels like it's broken, I want to mend it. And so I've always been like that with myself and with others. So when someone was crying, I would want to fix it and be like, no, don't cry. Like,
Yeah.
oh, let's do something
Yeah.
fun. And I was in this lady's healing circle and she was going around the circle and giving each lady, we were each holding a candle. And if you were holding the candle, it was your turn to speak. And these ladies were just allowed to say whatever they needed to say. And they were crying and, really pouring their hearts out. And nobody did a thing.
Yeah.
And I was so uncomfortable with it at first. I had to sit on my hands because I just wanted to go and soothe them.
Yeah.
And then I watched my friend because she was just holding that space. She was like, this is good. This is okay.
Yeah.
You're just going to keep talking. And by them just being allowed to share and to speak, suddenly the tears kind of dissipated a bit and they were able to breathe. And they were like,
Yeah.
oh, I feel better now. And they had
Yeah.
done it all themselves just because someone allowed them to.
Yeah.
And I've learned that from her. And that's the whole point. She came to me because she wanted to learn to sing with more confidence. But what I've learned from her is equally powerful. And that's the point. We all have the power to
Yeah.
influence and inspire each other, whatever that may be. And you might think you have nothing to offer, but that's never going to be true. And it's just, that's the thing I'm so passionate about.
Well, I love that story because I think it is hard. I think it is, I don't know if it's societal influence or education, but we are, sort of, it's like you need to fix something. Like if someone's crying, you need to like get them to stop and if they're angry, you need to calm them down and you've got to or cheer them up and it's sometimes people just they don't want to get stuck there, but they do need to sit. We need to, we have a bit of a fear of sitting with some, particularly some of the heavier emotions, don't we?
Mm.
And it's like, but it can just that the beautiful power of having a community to witness you as well, I think, is something that I'm starting to see more people becoming aware of. Actually, just the power of a community coming together and holding these beautiful spaces where people can share how they're feeling, and so they're not having to like cope alone
Mm.
with things. And I think I mean, I love the sound of the things that you do, and if anyone is local to you, and because you're in, is it Salisbury area?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're in Salisbury in the UK. So if anyone's local enough that they can get along to Lily's amazing, it's coffee cake and
Coffee, cake, and
singing
choir.
choir.
Yeah.
That's it, coffee
Yeah.
cake and choir. So it sounds fantastic. I love it. I love just the whole like idea of it. It's just bringing everything together, this beautiful place to come and experience and live through whatever life is happening to you at the time.
And do you know what? That choir started because I just wanted to sing more. I always want to sing more. And I wanted to do something that I didn't have to overly prep for.
Yeah.
So the other choir I run, I love equally, by the way. So if anyone's listening from Evo, shout out to Evo as well. I love you guys dearly. But with Evo, they are huge arrangements that can take hours to create. And I do love to do that. That's another way that my soul speaks for sure. But I wanted to do something where I could just rock up with a song. What it's become, though, because we've been running over a year now, what it's become is because of the people that have come there.
Yeah.
That it was never, I could never have just seen that on my own, you know? It's become this healing space and this community space and this nurturing place because of every single person that has come along. And yes, I facilitated the space in the first place and I brought the singing, but it's become what it is because of every single person that showed up. And the other thing you just said that I had to pick up on was this need to soothe and this need for people to be okay. We need people to be okay because we want to be okay. And so when we see someone else falling apart, we go, no, please don't fall apart because then I'm going to fall apart. And if you're not okay, then I'm not okay. And we need to change that whole narrative and be like, do you know what? That's okay that you're falling apart right now because you have the ability to put yourself back together. And it's so empowering. And when we see others do it, we can do it too. And I do think this is the way forward. And I do think that this is where we're headed. And yeah, I mean, I would love anyone listening if they're local. And if you're not local, there's kind of a movement happening now to get me on a tour. I say there's a movement. It's basically just me. I want a tour bus and maybe two people. And one of them might have been my mum said it was a good idea. So as far as I'm concerned, it's happening.
I think it sounds like a great idea.
If you want me to come in my tour bus to Coffee, Cake and Choir, and my tour bus at the moment is just my car, but whatever, I can drive to where you are. So if you think you can bring me a group of people, get in touch. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds fantastic. And I think the one thing I just want to touch on with you, because we focused a lot on singing, which is obviously part of your history and is also just it's joyful. I think like when you think of singing, like obviously
it's accessible too.
But there might be people listening who are like, you know, I can't sing, or like singing doesn't appeal to me. Like singing in public definitely doesn't appeal to me. I might manage it in the shower or something, but I don't want anyone listening other than, you know. So how could how could sound healing be sort of worked into their life? How do you want to sort of talk to that for a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, these are my favorite people. And these are the people I meet a lot, the people that go, oh, I love what you do, but I could never do that because I sound like a bag of strangled cats. So here's the thing. If you hate singing, and I mean hate singing, if you would rather lop off your own limbs and stick your head in a bag of sand than sing, then I am not for you, but there will be something for you. So go find the thing that excites you. Go find the thing that you've always wanted to do or that you've always loved to do and go do that thing. There's so many more things to choose from. But most people are not that. I've never met anyone that hated singing. I have met a lot of people, though, who believed they couldn't do it or believed they shouldn't do it. And these are my people. Because actually, if you're on the front going, oh, I can't sing, I sound like a bag of strangled cats, and it's not for me, and oh, God, I could never do it in front of people, and oh, I could never, 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 then there's healing there for you. Because, first of all, there's no such thing as could never. There's only choosing not to. And so, again, if you're in the group of people that absolutely just hate to do it, like what do I absolutely hate? Well, I don't know, I've never done it, but I'm guessing I wouldn't enjoy motocross, right? So I'm just not going to go and do motocross, but that's fine for the people that want to do it. But if you've got any part of you that's going, oh, I wish I could, then you absolutely should. And even if you're scared, and even if you think you're terrible, you should do it, because singing is the way that your soul gets to speak. And here's the magic, right? People come to me with exactly those phrases. I can't sing, I sound bad. I get people coming to the choir going, I'm so sorry, I can't sing. And I'm like, why are you sorry? I don't care if you can sing. You're here to release something. I don't care what it sounds like coming out of your mouth. Most of those people are wrong. The majority of people that think they can't sing are just wrong. They can. They've just been told they shouldn't, or they've been told they shouldn't try. But even if you really can't, you still can learn. And the thing is, when you realize that, it changes something in your brain, because then you go, well, what else did I tell myself I couldn't do? What else was I telling myself that I shouldn't even attempt? It literally changes your whole world. And so, yeah, I have a lot to say. For those people who really think they can't do it for themselves, though, the other side of what I do is the sound healing itself. So it's sound Reiki. So you go and you lie down in a room with a lovely fluffy blanket and some dim lighting, and I burn a little incense and I play some beautiful music, and then I sing to you. So my sound vibrations can penetrate your energy field, and you can still benefit from that. Go listen to other people sing. Just go and be in a space of live music, live singing. If that's something that on any level lights you up, I promise there's healing there for you. Yeah. And so that's the very long-winded answer.
Oh no, it's perfect. It's perfect, because I think there's just so much there. I think there are so many times in life where we've allowed others to tell us what we can and can't do, or what we're good at or what we aren't good at. And sometimes the things that we love are sacrificed as a result, aren't they? And I think that's a really it's a really sad thing for people to go through life and have that experience. And I think something that you talk about and you're very passionate about, and it was sort of, you touched on it right at the early on, was about confidence. And actually, when you you do something that you thought you couldn't do, even if you don't do it very well by your own judgment, it's just that empowering, isn't it? There's the confidence that you gain from that, and then you sort of begin to think, well, okay, well, I believed this about myself for so long, and I've just busted that belief. Like, it's now in pieces on the floor. So actually, what else have I kind of, I guess, lied to myself about who I am and what I can and can't do? And I think, and that can just change your life, can't it? Completely.
Totally. And it's a way that we keep ourselves safe. And we all just want to be safe. And the way that we are designed as humans is to stay in the realm of what feels safe and what feels familiar, even when those things suck. And so to then go and do something that you think you're not going to be good at feels like a scary thing to do. But that dopamine hit that you'll get from doing it is because what you realize on the other side of that is you actually could do it. And, you know, so many people that think they can't sing don't think that at all. They've just been conditioned to think that because someone around them told them. Or even worse, someone around them thinks they can't do it. So I was having this conversation the other day with a friend of mine who said, you know, she spent a lot of her years thinking she hated cats. And then she said it one day, and then she was like, wait a minute, I actually don't hate cats. I quite like cats. So why am I saying I hate cats? And she realized that her mum hated cats. So she was like, well, I just have gone through my life, because she obviously as a child heard her mum go, oh, I hate cats. So she's like, oh yeah, we hate cats.
That's part of my identity, because it's safe. You know, that's how I stay in with my community, is to embody that.
Right. And so one of my favorite mantras, there are two actually. I learned them both from Amanda Francis. Go check her out. She's an amazing money mentality coach. But two phrases she says are, one of them is, how else can I see this? So how else can I see this? You know, when you're saying, I can't do this, or this feels hard, or I'm stuck, how else could I see this situation? What's another perspective? And then the other one that she says is that ultimately true? So when you tell yourself something, because we tell ourselves things like it's the ultimate truth. Yeah. Do we have the ultimate truth though? Goes back to what I said earlier. Probably not. No. Yeah. So when you say, oh, I could never sing in public, is that ultimately true? Is it actually true that you as a human who can speak and who has the ability to be out in public, is it ultimately true that you could not go out in public and make a sound that is called singing? No, that's not ultimately true, but you're choosing not to. Why? Now, your answer might be, because I don't want to. Cool. That's the end of that game then. Don't do it. Go do something you do want to do. But most people would get through that and go, oh, well, I'm not doing it because I don't think I'm going to sound good, or I might look stupid, or I might make a mistake, or I might make a bad sound. And what if I told you none of that matters? You can actually get the benefits of singing, even if you sound like a bag of strangled cats. Do it anyway. This is what I encourage people in my choirs to do. Whatever you're going to do it loud. Be proud of it, whatever comes out of your mouth, because it's your sound and you have a voice and it gets to be heard because you matter. And that's the message that lies at the root of everything I do. The minute you try and silence yourself, you're telling yourself you don't matter. And that's not true. Yeah. And that's it. I feel like I need a mic to drop at this point.
Yeah. No, it's, there's just, I love just all the things you've just said there is just, you know, we just have to have that awareness with ourselves, don't we? Of just like, and just go get curious and be like, actually, you know, what frame am I looking through when I'm telling myself these things? And yeah, I just love that. And I just think probably that's a really powerful way to wrap up, actually, because it's just, if you could just live by those three things that you've just said, it would probably transform your life, really, and the lives of those around you. And I think one of the big things that I believe about the environment is actually it's empowering just normal everyday people to believe that A, that there's hope, and B, that there's other people out there doing things, and also that they are important and they can make a difference.
Absolutely.
And I think everything you just said there is just perfect for that as well, is that just we all just need to learn to believe in ourselves a little bit more, don't we? We need to just like drop out of this, I think, dialogue.
Even if you can't believe in yourself, be willing to challenge what you think is true. It's 11:11, people, angel hour. Be willing to change what you're telling yourself is true, for sure. And, you know, and it might change your life, but even that can feel scary because that feels like an enormous shift. And if we want to be safe, that might not feel safe. So even if it doesn't change your life, it's going to feel a hell of a lot more fun. I can promise you that. And who doesn't want to have a bit more fun, you know?
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Just, and by change your life, it might not, you know, change your circumstances, but just change how you feel on a day-to-day basis, which can, if you've been struggling with anxiety or grief and things, that can be amazing as well. So I just, thank you so much, Lilli. It's been fabulous talking to you. I've really enjoyed it. And I will have all your links in the podcast show notes for people so they can go and look you up, learn a bit more about what you do, if they're local or if they want you to come on tour. Like, I think, you know,
let's
definitely
make the tour happen, people. Come on. I'm talking a karaoke party bus. You know, I just come a UK tour and then who knows, the world.
Yeah, exactly. Coffee, cake and choir, one stop at a time.
Absolutely. I mean, if anyone is listening in Ibiza, I fancy Ibiza, so hit me up.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, thank you, Lilli, so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and just I feel like I need to go off and sing now, so but I'll save my listeners, and I'll turn off the mic and do it afterwards.
Oh, do it. Thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for listening to the Nurtured by Nature podcast. I truly hope this conversation has brought some hope and inspiration into your life. I would love to have these messages ripple out across the world. So if you can, please share this episode with your friends, leave a review on your favourite podcast player, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I would love to hear from you, so please feel free to connect with me on the links provided in the podcast description. But most importantly, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. But don't forget to simply get out there and enjoy the natural world.